The summer heat wrapped around our tiny apartment like a wet blanket. Even with the air conditioner rattling in the window, sweat clung to my skin as I walked into the living room that morning. That's when I froze. A man I had never seen before was asleep on our couch. He looked thin and exhausted, wearing faded jeans and a wrinkled hoodie. His messy hair covered half his face as he slept peacefully like he belonged there. For a moment, I honestly thought maybe my roommate, Claire, had invited him over after I went to bed. Claire stepped out of her room seconds later, glanced at the stranger, and casually walked toward the kitchen without reacting. I assumed he was her guest. She assumed he was mine. Neither of us said a word. We quietly got ready for work, stepping around the sleeping stranger as if this situation was completely normal. Claire left first. I headed out 20 minutes later, locking the apartment behind me while the mystery man still slept on our couch. That evening, the apartment felt oddly cleaner. The sink sparkled. Every dirty plate had been washed. Inside the microwave sat half of a grilled cheese sandwich wrapped neatly in paper towels. Claire stared at me nervously when I mentioned the man. "You saw him too," she whispered. We slowly realized the horrifying truth together. Someone had broken into our apartment during the night, and stayed there while we slept. But instead of stealing from us, he cleaned our kitchen. And somehow, that made it even creepier. That night, we locked every window and door. But around 3 a.m., I heard the faint sound of glass sliding open. And deep down, I already knew who had returned. The next morning, the stranger was back on our couch, but this time, something inside the apartment had changed forever. When I woke up, the stranger was there again. Same couch. Same peaceful expression. Like he had every right to be inside our home. Claire had already left for work, so once again, we missed the chance to talk before leaving. I quietly grabbed my bag and walked past him, trying not to wake him. By the time I came home that evening, the leftovers from our fridge were gone. And once again, every dish in the apartment had been cleaned perfectly. Claire laughed nervously when I told her. "This is insane," she said. "He breaks in, eats our food, cleans the kitchen, and sleeps on our couch like some weird house elf. We should have called the police. Instead, we gave him a nickname. Dish Guy." Over the next few weeks, the routine became disturbingly normal. Every night, he slipped through the living room window after we went to sleep. He would quietly eat leftovers, wash dishes, and curl up on the couch until morning. He never threatened us. Never stole anything. He just looked lonely. One night, I came home late from work and heard strange noises coming from Claire's bedroom. Muffled crying. Sharp thuds. A man whimpering softly. My heart nearly stopped. I rushed toward the room, ready to call the police. Then the door opened. Dish Guy stepped out first. There was a bruise forming under his eye, tears running down his face. He walked silently into the kitchen and started washing dishes with shaking hands. Claire followed behind him, completely calm. "What the hell is going on?" I whispered. She took a sip of water and shrugged. "He keeps coming back because he wants to." I stared at her in disbelief. That night, Claire explained everything. Dish Guy wasn't trapped. He willingly returned every night because the attention, even painful attention, made him feel wanted. And suddenly, our harmless little intruder story became something much darker. A few nights later, curiosity got the best of me, and what I saw inside Claire's bedroom made my stomach turn. A few days later, Claire left town for the weekend to attend her cousin's wedding. The apartment felt strangely quiet without her. Around 1 a.m., I walked into the kitchen and found Dish Guy sitting alone at the table, eating cold pasta straight from the container. For the first time, he didn't look away when he saw me. "You don't have to keep coming here," I told him softly. He lowered his fork. "This place feels safe," he admitted. "Warm food. A couch. Someone notices me here." His voice sounded empty, like a person who had gone too long without kindness. We talked for hours that night. He told me pieces of his life. Losing his construction job, sleeping in abandoned buildings, surviving weeks without speaking to another person. Claire's cruel attention had become the closest thing to affection he'd experienced in years. "That's not love," I said quietly. "Love shouldn't leave bruises behind." He stared down at his hands. "Then what does real love feel like?" For a moment, neither of us spoke. I simply sat beside him. No insults. No shouting. No games. Just silence and warmth. When morning arrived, he stood near the window preparing to leave. "Thank you," he whispered. Then he disappeared into the early sunlight. And after that night, he never came back. Claire noticed immediately when she returned home. "No midnight visitor," she joked while unpacking her bags. I shook my head. "He's gone." She didn't seem bothered. But sometimes late at night, I still think about him wandering through the city alone, searching for warmth in the wrong places. And honestly, the scariest part of this whole story wasn't the break-in. It was realizing how loneliness can make people accept almost anything, even pain, just to feel noticed. But months later, when I heard scratching outside my apartment window again at 3 a.m., I couldn't help wondering. Had Dish Guy finally come back? 3 months passed after Dish Guy disappeared. Life slowly returned to normal. Claire stopped mentioning him completely, and eventually, I tried convincing myself the whole situation had simply been a bizarre chapter of our lives. But some nights, I still caught myself staring at the living room window before going to sleep. Just in case. One rainy Thursday night, I woke suddenly to a scraping sound outside the apartment. Scratch. 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 My eyes snapped open. At first, I thought the noise came from tree branches tapping against the glass. But then I heard something worse. The slow slide of the living room window opening. My stomach dropped instantly. I grabbed my phone and quietly stepped into the hallway. The apartment was dark except for the faint yellow glow from the kitchen light. Someone was inside. I could hear soft footsteps moving across the floor. For one horrible second, I thought Dish Guy had returned. But the man standing in the kitchen wasn't him. This stranger was taller. Broader shoulders. Wearing a dark hoodie soaked from the rain. His face remained hidden beneath the hood as he searched through our cabinets. I backed away carefully, but the floor creaked beneath my foot. The man froze. Then slowly turned toward me. I couldn't breathe. Without saying a single word, he reached into his pocket. I ran. I slammed Claire's bedroom door open and screamed her name. She shot upright in panic while I locked the door behind us. Heavy footsteps crossed the apartment. Then silence. We both stared at the bedroom door, waiting for it to burst open. But after a full minute, the apartment became completely quiet again. Claire whispered shakily, "Call the police." I nodded and reached for my phone with trembling hands. But before I could dial, 3 soft knocks echoed from the other side of the bedroom door. Knock. 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 Then a familiar voice whispered quietly. "Don't open it. He followed me here." The voice outside the door belonged to Dish Guy, and what he told us next changed everything we thought we knew. Claire and I froze in complete silence. "Dish Guy?" I whispered through the door. His voice sounded panicked. "You need to stay quiet. He's been watching this building for weeks." My heart pounded violently. "Who is he?" Claire asked. Dish Guy hesitated before answering. "The man outside, he's dangerous. I used to stay at the same shelter as him. He breaks into apartments at night looking for places to rob." A loud crash suddenly echoed from the kitchen. The stranger was still inside. We heard drawers opening, dishes hitting the floor, heavy footsteps moving closer down the hallway. Claire started crying quietly beside me. Then came another sound. A struggle. Grunting. Furniture scraping. Someone slammed hard against the wall outside the bedroom. And then, silence. A few seconds later, Dish Guy spoke again through the door. "You can come out now." I slowly unlocked the door. The apartment was destroyed. Broken plates covered the floor. The window stood wide open as rain poured inside. But the stranger was gone. So was Dish Guy. The only thing left behind was a single note sitting on the kitchen counter. "Thanks for treating me like a human being." We never saw him again after that night. But sometimes, around 3 a.m., I still wake up thinking I hear dishes quietly clinking in the kitchen. And honestly, part of me hopes it's him. The end.